Hi, I'm glad you're here. If you're like a lot of recruiters I talk to, okay, if you're like a lot of recruiters like I am, have been in the past, many of us, many recruiters have been on a revenue roller coaster. They've got a killer month, maybe two big ones on the boards. And then they stop, we've stopped doing the activities that made that success happen. That's not a great plan for the long run. And to build a real business, we need to create a culture of consistency and predictable income in your recruiting operation. Sounds lofty, sometimes sounds easier said than done, but a couple times a year, we select a few clients who are embracing the process we talk about here at the Recruiter U, and they're adding some of their own innovative techniques to it. But when you look at it, they're really best practices that I want you to have some insight into. So we've pulled together 4 of them today, and throughout the training where you hear from each of them, you'll hear from solo recruiters, recruiting firm owners, who will share how they're doing, what they're doing, and how they're doing it to get better clients, higher fees, and access to great candidates. I'm Kathleen Kirk. I'm one of the coaches here at Recruiter U. Been around, I've worked a desk and built a business for more than 28 years. Fortunately, to great success. My personal billings topped 18 million, the firm's billings topped 32. And to be honest with you, a lot of that was by accident until I figured out how to do it consistently. It didn't happen automatically. I had to really bump my head, went gray, got a lot of black and blue marks, but I figured out how to do it consistently. And it wasn't just by outsmarting or outworking everybody else. I took my ego out of the equation, frankly, and realized that what mattered in building a real business, and for me, that means one with consistent revenue, so I'd have predictable income, one that where I was operating as a trusted advisor with my clients, so I could really love what I'm doing. And I've learned from the many clients I've worked with here at the Recruiter U that I'm not alone in wanting those outcomes. And I suspect you too wish those were true for you. So today we're going to share experiences from 4 the Recruiter U clients, what they've learned, what they've done, and how it's turned out from them. They're 4 independent and recruiting firm owners. You're going to hear from Ardith, whose metrics were up, using metrics, really leaned on metrics and increased her results 311% in less than 1 year. We'll hear from Gerard, who it was scary at first, but he got money up front and now has what he says, clients lining up to give me money in deposit for searches. I love the way he says that. You'll hear from Jill, who's going to talk about what she's learned and what she's put in place as it relates to metrics in marketing. And pay attention to how she's created a really effective targeted marketing campaign using MPC emails. And she's outbilled her annual best in just under 6 months. And then you'll hear from Bill, who's using a system, predictable, consistent system to hire and onboard and scale his recruiting firm. So for him, he now hires on a calendar instead of having to agonize over asking, is now the right time? How do I go about it? He's got it to a process that's repeatable, and he'll share what results that's brought for him in the business. Now, some of these results might be results that you've said you've wanted. Life got in the way, didn't turn out that way. There is no magic fairy dust included in what you're going to hear from the clients. When you listen, when you dig in and dig behind what Ardith and Gerard and Jill and Bill are sharing, what you'll learn is that the outcomes they're describing are because they really specified in their work together, they specified their vision of what they wanted and translated that into actionable items and results that were quantifiable. They were able to translate that into focused planning for what they need to do today and tomorrow and next week to get them to where they want to go, and strategies for identifying gaps and really leaning on wins as a way to close those gaps. You'll hear a lot of examples of things where they took action consistently, And then you'll hear them referring to metrics or accountability, being able to track where they are in their own journey so that they can celebrate the wins and course correct when they're off track. Sort of like if you're driving from San Francisco to Chicago and all of a sudden you realize the sunset's ahead of you instead of behind you, you can course correct and get yourself moving in the right direction. Now, I got to tell you, this isn't a get rich quick. This is about working in a certain way and working hard in a certain way. This is about you doing 100% of your 50% in a coaching client relationship, because these techniques don't work unless you work. But why this is so useful and so valuable now is that we are in an amazing market. And there's a big payoff to you if you capitalize on what you'll hear today from these four fellow colleagues in the industry. You know, we've watched, and heck, I've been there. I learned how to do this business in a recession. Fortunately, I didn't know that, but we've watched clients recruiting through multiple recessions, through boom times, through bursting bubbles. And in each of those cycles, in each of those cases, it was the consistency of doing what we're talking about, what you'll hear from these clients, that created the wins of consistent revenue with predictable income, the wins of operating at a high level as a trusted advisor instead of just being an annoying vendor, and their ability, the win of being able to have a self-driving business so they could still have business results happening, having money, the activities that generate money happening while they were having a life or taking a vacation. So enjoy hearing from some of these folks, see where you might want what they have, see where it resonates with you. So it won't take long, but turn off your distractions, listen hard, listen with your head, listen with your heart. Let's dive in.
It is my distinct pleasure to introduce Ardith Rademacher, who's been a client for 8 years and is now one of our coaches, and still a client. So she serves both roles and she still has her business. So one of the things Metrics has liberated Ardith to do is she's now able to coach our clients and get her own clients without her revenue in her recruiting firm going down. And I wanted Ardith to talk because it was one of the clients where instantaneously Metrics made a difference. Kind of when you started, kind of what was your situation and how did you use Metrics to grow revenue?
Okay, so when I first started working with Mike, I didn't count metrics, and I worked, right. I had worked fine for 12 years of making the calls and getting placements, but there was nothing predictable about it. And whenever I'd heard about metrics, it seemed like a lot of math, and it didn't help me understand what I was trying to do on my desk. And Mike sort of helped me understand that that there was a direct alignment with my first time interviews to how much I made, and literally just walked me through, like, this is how much you made, this is how many interviews you had, these are how many placements you made, let's do the math. And all of a sudden I could literally see, like, this is my average placement, this is how it works. And for me, it became that first time interview, that critical number, because I could then decide that, okay, if I need this many placements and this is my average fee, then this is what I need to get the amount of money I want at the end of the year. And it became crystal clear. And every day I came to my desk with an understanding of, where is my first time interview coming from? If I have no job orders, then I need a lot more marketing today. If I have job orders and I don't have candidates, I need recruiting calls. But where are my first time interviews coming from? And that first year, I think Mike and we dialed in on that, I want to say in February, because I definitely remember it got really clear on what I needed to do. And that year, from February through December, I tripled my income and took 5 weeks off.
I think it was, I looked it up, you said what you wrote to me was 311%.
311% in less than a year. And
took more time off.
And that time off wasn't inexpensive. It was buying a home. It was going on a vacation my sister and I thought was a good idea at the time. So the money was there. I suddenly realized, like it's all about my first time interview, where my first time interview is coming from. And every week I knew exactly what that number was. Like my first time interviews back at that point were one a week. It doesn't sound like much, but we all know what it takes on a desk to make that happen. And it was just crystal clear that whatever happened during that week, I was going to get one first time interview. And literally the income that I predicted came to within, I want to say like $3,700 of what I made that year. It was that clear. It wasn't, and I'm not a math person. There was no part of me that wanted this. There was no part of me that understood. But what I got really crystal clear on was what is my first time interview ratio need to be? What is that first time interview per week? And how do I hit those numbers? So for example, if I was going to take a vacation, then I knew that I needed to get more first time interviews in a different week. Or if let's say I needed 4 in a month, maybe I needed 5 in a month because I was going to take time off the next month. But it was that clear and it was that predictable. And there was once during one of these runs where I got a client and they were ramping and scaling and had big projects, and we literally went for 68 interviews, first time interviews without a placement, and I was climbing walls. Mike was pulling me off the ceiling and just reminding me that I was due. And I kid you not, like all of a sudden 3 placements came out of nowhere at a price point that made all those other first times interviews equal out. It's wild how the numbers always work. And ever since that date, and it's allowed me to scale my business. So as I've joined Recruiter U and become a coach, I still run a full-time desk, a full-time team. Our revenues are still growing. We haven't, adding more to my plate only makes me that much more focused on how I need to tweak my metrics and how I need to augment my team to get the numbers I need. It makes it so easy.
People have, again, there's a belief that if I want to 2x my revenue, or in your case, 3x my revenue, I have to 3x my effort.
Mm-mm.
No. And the second point I want to emphasize is one of the reasons she only needs 1 interview per week, because I don't want anyone to go, oh, I only need an interview per week. She's got very high fees and her interview to placement ratio is like 3 to 1. So your average fee is what, like at the time, 35, 40 grand? Yeah. So to hit her financial goal, right? It's not like, oh, I can do 1 interview a week. Maybe you can if you have an average fee of $35,000 and you have a 3 to 1 interview to placement ratio. Any other things about beliefs or that you're even seeing it like with our fast track clients, right? Because we've done a couple of these groups where we're putting them in like boot camp every day to hold them accountable. Any feedback you've got from that, or as it relates to the metrics piece?
Yeah, the piece, and I was just thinking about this because I even went through this back in December, and a lot of our first the boot camp that we did back in December and we're seeing now is the faith that you doing the numbers, but keeping that faith, right? Because when you start making all these dials and you start upping your activity and you are keeping focused on that first time interviews and you're getting those first time interviews, but the placements aren't happening, to really, what these allow you to do is to go right back into that foundation of faith and say, I know that my math is right. I can't control the placements, so I'm going to focus 100% on my first time interviews and keeping that number consistent, because I know without a doubt that I will make the numbers I want to make. And almost without fail, every time we lean into that and we fight that discomfort of those interviews, of those placements not happening, and just focus on what we can control, which are the submittals that lead to the first time interviews. Then that comes from the marketing call, so you have the job orders. It comes from the recruiting call, so you have the candidates. So you focus on getting people out the door and into those first-time interviews and trust that the placements will come. And that's really where that leap of faith happens. And many of you on this call know that I run. And what I do every single day is exactly what's on my training plan. No more and no less. But when you get ready for race day, you have to trust your training. You have to take that leap of faith that all those little pieces you did every single day are going to come together to come for a good race. And they do, but it doesn't always look like that's what you're doing every single day. So being able to focus on first-time interviews, really leaning into the fact that that is all you get to control on your desk, is the activity that comes up to that first-time interview, and being really confident. So when those placements aren't coming right away, you just lean harder into those first-time interviews. They will come. They will absolutely come. And this helps you move through that.
You were crystal clear on this is 100% predictable, 100% of the time, by the way.
It is. And it's just, we talk about metrics and we give it this word and we have to count and we have to look at all this stuff, and don't make it harder than it needs to be. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. Mine, literally, my entire tracking has been a Post-it note. All of this work has been done every week on a Post-it note with hash marks. So, because it allowed me to leave it right next to my desk and mark what I was doing so that I knew exactly and precisely what was happening every single, and I have all of those Post-it notes.
So to Ardith's point, I'm the one who taught Ardith that. And part of her retention bonus when she renews every year is I have to give her 1 or 2 Post-it pads that we have with our logo on them. So, she drives a hard bargain. But I built a $3 million company with everyone having this on their desk, right? So why do I pick this? It takes up very little space. So it doesn't get into a recruiter's way. MTWTHFR, right? Across the top. RPMP for each day, hash marks. And when you get to 4, this is the high-tech thing, you cross it. That's how you know you have 5. And then you total those up once a week and you enter it into the portal, right? So this is how it takes 5 minutes a week. And the feedback I got from my team and from our clients is making the hash mark, it's like a little dopamine release. It's a little like, okay, I'm one closer, I'm one closer, I'm one closer, I'm one closer. The act of counting is not punitive, it's actually rewarding. All right. Thank you, Ardith.
Thanks.
Really what's happened in my business is I've noticed a huge uplift in the number of interviews. I've noticed a huge uplift in the number of conversations I've been having with clients and quality candidates. I've sold 5 engaged searches in the past 3 months. I've actually got to the point now where I've got clients queuing up to give me money on deposit for the next search. And I'm having to hold them off, not disrespectfully, but I'm having to hold them off and say, listen, not right now. I'm happy to take that search on in 6 weeks' time because I'm fully committed to what I've got right now. And they're happy to wait. I fired a couple of clients. I fired long-standing clients that I've worked with for years. And I've replaced them with better, newer clients that work on a retained or engaged basis with me exclusively. So really, it comes back to the decision. I had to make that decision. Mike Giunta, with respect, or Kathleen Kirk or Francis couldn't make that decision for me. I had to make that call. And you're right. I definitely didn't believe that it was possible in my niche or my industry because I'd never tried it before. And I suppose, again, it goes back to what we spoke of earlier about the fear of failure. I was afraid. I was genuinely afraid of that first call with a client to talk to them about an engaged search. But with the Recruiter U program, the beauty of it is it's a building block process. It's a process. Everything is step by step. You're given, I wouldn't say it's scripted, but you're certainly given a lot of tools going into those conversations that give you the confidence to say, you know what, this opportunity, I'm going to respectfully pass on it because it's not the right time for you or for me to work together. And you're leaving that door slightly ajar for that client to come back to you at a later stage. So it's, I spoke with Tina Marie about this the other day, and I said, for a long time I was like that guy, that in the Bible where the guy goes out and he's sowing seed, and some of the seed lands on rocks and it just doesn't take root. And I was that kind of rocky, thorny ground for a long time. The seeds that the Recruiter U were giving me just weren't really going into embed and weren't taking root. And really what I've noticed certainly in the last 6 to 8 months, is that the systems and the learnings and the lessons that you've collectively taught me, and I say you collectively, all of you, have taught me over the last 3 years, it's just started to come through in a torrent. And now I'm starting to see the evidence of it. I mean, I'm now focusing on, I started out at the start of this year thinking my ideal number is X. My ideal number now is X plus Y, because I'm thinking, screw that, I'm going to hit for the stars here. So yeah, I'm having a phenomenal year. And I can't say that it's necessarily market led. I think a lot of it is completely in here. It's completely in my mindset. And you used the phrase earlier about getting out of your own way. I mean, frankly, I was getting in my own way for probably 19 years.
Mm-hmm. We all do. and there's two types of people, right, Gerard? There's the type of person like you that you go, I'm in my own way. And then there's other people that go, well, you don't understand, Gerard or Mike or Kathleen, the niche is this, the market's this, I live in a country with this. Okay. But so now you're stacking you're not, but some people stack evidence that it's the outcome is beyond them. And what I love, just watching you, and I think I've told you this a couple times, is even though you were that rocky earth, crumbly, stonier or drier ground, is one, we kept throwing seed down. And two, you kept looking for water and dirt. So your persistence and self-awareness, watching you grow, has just been an honor, Gerard. Kathleen is Jill Detweiler's coach. She's been with us for a few months now and has done some amazing things and was nominated to share some of those by our coaching team. So with that, Kathleen, I'll turn it over to you.
Cool. Jill, welcome, and thank you for volunteering. I'm going to ask you to share a little bit about the nature of the work you do. I will just compliment you and say the amazing difference I've noticed in the depth of sophistication with which you talk about your business as a business, not just a deal stringing together with the next deal. But give us some of the basics about you and what you do. But more importantly, what stands out to you and what are the results you've seen in the time that we've been working together? Because I know they're valuable to you too.
Yeah, well, Kathleen's amazing. So thank you for all you've done for me. Thanks for the invitation.
You do the hard work.
I'll just back up and tell you that I've been recruiting for 21 years. I've had my own firm for the last 11 years. And I've done a lot of training and learning over the years, a lot of NAPS conferences, a lot of Fordyce Forum. I actually hired a coach maybe 5 years ago, and I've done a lot to evolve the practice, but my billings have basically remained static really over the last 10 years. And the results that I'm getting now, the last 6 months, I have achieved the highest number I've ever billed in 1 year in 6 months. And if we look at the last 4 months, that's what the average billing that I would have in 1 year. So it's pretty amazing results. And I think the program overall is, it's more than just some learnings that you get at a conference. So I would come home from a conference, have a few ideas. I'd been out of the office for a couple days, and then I just had trouble implementing. But the true program is so complete. So you've got your own coach, you've got the learning modules, you've got your Monday calls where you're surrounded by people that are learning and also doing the same thing. And then you've got your mindset coaching. So it's a way of really implementing the learning that is drastically different than anything I've done before. So that's one thing. But in terms of how I've shifted my business, as Kathleen pointed out, it's more of a business than just recruiting deals. Let's see, my marketing. So my marketing beforehand was basically referrals. So I'd get business based on referrals. And then I would do a little bit of marketing, and then I would get business, and then I would drop it. So there wasn't a consistency to what I was doing. So I've implemented a full consistent plan around marketing, and it's been dramatic.
And specifically, what have some of those pieces been that you've now built into your plan?
So I'm doing regular MPC marketing campaigns, and I've built into my plan how I'm going to be talking to candidates that would be potential for that, whether they're from a previous search or another candidate. So on a regular basis, I've got campaigns set up, and I have a cadence of when particular target clients will be receiving emails from me. And then I also have a cadence around client calls every week that I didn't have in the past.
And we happened to be having a conversation earlier in this week about doubling your goal for the year and how to make that happen. But share with us what you now use as a roadmap to decide where you're going to hitting that goal.
So I'm using the metrics, and I knew about metrics before, but I wasn't using them properly. They're really a strategic planning tool to help guide my daily activities and help me hit my goals. So I've got a critical number of first-time interviews that I have set for each month, and every morning I'm planning to figure out how I'm going to achieve that daily, weekly, and monthly. And that's had a dramatic effect. And just this week, Kathleen was coaching me on how I get a vacation in there, because I have really been, working and getting job orders. And oh my goodness, now what do I do? Because I have too much business to walk away from. So we figured out some strategies around that, of how I can plan ahead and take vacations too, because it's not all work.
No, and those are important. So let's just stay on because you have become masterful at using the metrics as your guiding light in terms of sort of your headlights shining where you're going to go. If you had to compare how you plan, both how you feel about your planning and how you actually execute your planning to decide what you're going to do, if you had to describe the before and your after shot, what would they look like? What would the differences be?
So I wasn't using metrics prior to being coached. It was when job orders would come in. So it was almost a victim of, when I was going to get busy and not be in control of that. So the job order would come in and I would, work like heck to fill that job. And then I might get another job order. So then prioritizing, and that's really my planning. So.
Cool. And what about the mindset? Yeah, I know you've really worked hard in that. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I would say the first mindset coaching that made a difference for me is I always want to reinvent the wheel. I think Kathleen might notice this. So having a plan in place and knowing that there's this overall kind of our overarching the learning modules of how I move forward. So I don't need to reinvent everything. I've got a plan. I know how to move forward, and it's just a matter of time of when I can implement. So not reinventing the wheel, not trying to do something new and different each time. I also have a tendency to overwork and overwhelm myself. So the mindset coaching, thank you, Frances, has been great around that and helping me see when that's happening and eliminate those limiting beliefs that I don't have to work like that. I can do well without putting in 12-hour days. So, and then the third mindset coaching was pretty fascinating and really getting more into subconscious type stuff was, I did have a limiting belief around finances. So, overcoming, maybe feeling uncomfortable with billing at a really high level, and can't say thank you enough for that. So if you are speaking to people who are wondering about if or how this could help them, based on your experience, what's the first step you'd recommend them to take to change what they're doing now to get different results? For me, the first step was the marketing, was putting in place a marketing strategy. So a consistent, effective marketing and strategy. Once that's in place, now I have much more control of what's coming in or what's not coming in. And then I can start setting those metrics and know that I can reach them. Without job orders, it's hard to reach your metrics. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's step one.
Cool. My God, your phone's ringing off the hook. So if then just leave us with, if you had to pick the 3 top things that that you're putting into place on a regular basis, that you're seeing have a direct impact, that are sort of shifting your score in terms of how you assess yourself on that Venn diagram. What are those 3 things where you're getting the highest payoff?
The MPC marketing campaigns, the metrics, and I've really tightened up my my overall recruiting process. So ensuring that my candidates are going to be able to close. So asking the right questions through that process and not getting to the end and wasting everybody's time, including mine.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it. Someone had posed the question, how do you get your job orders? And you really spoke to that with this regular and consistent cadence of MPC email marketing campaigns that generate those conversations. So cool. Thank you, Jill.
One of the reasons I wanted to have Bill here today, and Dion, feel free to jump in with any questions, because this is all just about scale. And Bill, it was part of a franchise organization, was the #1 office year after year in that system, and really dialed in scaling. And when we formed our boardroom group 3 years ago now, which is 7-figure offices. I remember one of our first conversations, and I've never got this, Bill, is you said, I want to be in a group of people that talk like investors to each other, right? And that's kind of like it's boardroom, where in the context of that room, it's only 8 offices, and they've gotten to know each other really, really well. Is they're looking at, like, Bill will look at somebody else's office, and we'll look at Bill's office as if we're investors. And is he maximizing his ability to scale and grow his company along with maximizing his profitability? But, if you're going to scale, that requires investments. So when you look at, scaling and hiring, when you go back to when you started, what were kind of the big takeaways you had growing your firm?
Again, I came up through a franchise system. And so I had access to a lot of different people and would go to, management meetings and what have you. And the number one thing that I would always comment on is that you have to be really, really emotionally invested and ready to grow your firm. You can't go in tepid. You can't go in with just one toe. It's full in. And because most people get so discouraged, they quit and they hire one, it doesn't work out, hire another one, doesn't work out. Well, it doesn't work. Well, it does work. It just like working a desk, you don't make a placement off every interview, right? And it's very much a numbers game. You can put the numbers in your favor by following certain systems and processes, but there are no guarantees. And so if you're not 100% emotionally, by God, I'm going to make this happen, you're probably setting yourself up to fail. That's the number one thing you have to be, is just emotionally ready to make it happen.
And I think, Bill, one of the things that happens, one of the reasons people aren't emotionally ready, is because they think success in hiring recruiters is finding the right, quote unquote, guy or gal, where we've learned it's systems-based. Right. I mean, some people don't work out no matter what you do, but so talk more about, so from that level of, okay, now you've decided to go all in, I'm committed to hiring, and then leaning on a system for interviewing, onboarding, and development.
Yeah. I mean, in so many ways, it's just like working a desk in our business. I mean, if you look at the metrics in our business, if I do this, this is what's going to happen. If I book 5 interviews, I'm going to make a placement. I don't know which one of the 5, and it may be the last 3 of 15, right? And that concept follows your hiring as well. I mean, you don't know which one's going to be your next superstar. You hope it's this one. And truthfully, I think I heard John Bartos say this one time, is every time he hired, he always thought he hired the next superstar. And that's what kept him emotionally hiring, right? And so every time I hire, I always think, man, this is the one, she's going to be my next superstar. He's going to be the next big biller. And I truly believe that on day one. And that's what keeps me going. You know, it's fun. I actually think I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. But it's the systems that are in place that allow you to have that assurance that it works, you know. And early on, I hired 365, meaning I brought them in. Second day, they were already making marketing calls. So we started on marketing, then got them recruiting. Through Mike's program, I've transitioned to more of bringing them in as a recruiter first, letting them become proficient there, and then introducing the marketing, you know, 6 months or a year later. And that seems to be working very well as well. So, but whatever it is, you got to have your processes in place so that, you know, if the processes are there, then it really is simple execution. Are they executing or are they not? You know, so that's the thing you come back to. But you never know which one's going to be able to execute. And it's the ones, a lot of times it's the ones that are kind of like, well, I think they're good, but I don't really know. And those are the ones that just blow you away.
That was exactly my experience. I remember, like, in my bones when I felt this was my next superstar. Two people come to my mind, fired them both in a week. The one where I needed to fill a hiring class with my second guy or gal, and I just kind of like threw this one over the fence, best hire ever. Right. And to your point, you never know, but you put them all in the same system, right? Like, you know, today's draft day in the NFL, right? So you have this happen, like, you know, and I'm a football fan, and, you know, so the draft talk this year has been amazing, right? When you look at it, half the first rounders are busts. You know, if you like, the big debate this year is in the quarterback, you know, there's 5 first round draft picks, right? We're going to know in probably 3 years, 2, if not 3 of them are going to be cut, right? And there's all this hype on them right now. So to the point with recruiters too, they look good in the interview process, right? You get all excited about them, or you're not excited about them. But I think, Bill, like you, there were elements of them. I didn't hire people to put a body in there. There was elements of something they did or said, or their behavior in the interview that I said, there could be something there and I'm going to take a shot. Because I know if I put them in my system and they talk to 15 people a day, right? Just like you, if they talk to 15 people a day, they'll be successful. And then they end up usually being more successful than we actually thought.
Absolutely. And I would say, you know, one of the critical things that I found, and this I really try to emphasize to my friends in the business, is if you can put them on a desk where the inventory that they can create can be recycled by you or by somebody else in your firm, you're much more able to emotionally continue to hire, because you don't see it right away. But now, I mean, we make a placement, I'll go and look where that candidate came from. I go, oh, that person worked for me for 2 weeks a year ago, and they're responsible for putting that resume in my database. Now, would have I made that placement anyway? Maybe, but it just emotionally adds to me. If I know that they're going to create inventory that's recyclable, then it makes it a lot easier in hiring and paying those salaries. And even if, and it's easier too to call a spade and just say, you know what, this isn't working out. I'm going to let this person go. Because a lot of times you're like, shit, I got 10 grand invested in this person. Why? I can't let them go now. Well, knowing that inventory that's on their desk is recyclable, it's much easier to go, I need to let them go find out what's going to be good in their life. And I'm going to work their desk and go through their inventory real quick and see what I can get in the system and see if I can get a placement to pay back my investment.
And my experience was very similar to yours. Was generally, if they're not going to make it, if you hold them accountable and they don't hit the 15, I fire them. And again, that's a small percentage of the people that actually don't do it. What typically happens is people might quit after 6 or 8 weeks because they go, even though they're executing the target, and they go, Bill, I don't know, this really isn't for me. And to your point was, they were talking to 75 people a week. There's resumes in there. We always, 100% of the time, we always place someone in my firm, always place one, if not more of them, more than financing the few $1,000s that we paid in salary, right? Meaning they financed your new hire failure. And we're wildly profitable on our hires that make it. So if you can finance the new hire failure and then be wildly profitable, you don't lose money hiring.
And I would say almost every one of your hires will generate something as far as revenue. Even those, I mean, I've had people work me for 1 or 2 weeks and I've been able to pull a resume off that desk to make a placement with. But see, so I think every hire you're able to get something. And then most of your hires actually will make at least 1, 2, or 3 placements. They just said, whatever reason, month 6, month 9 come in and just, this isn't really for me. I think they gave up too soon. For whatever reason, I can't get them turned around, or I may be glad that they're leaving. You just never know. But, it's very few that can actually take it and run, and by year 2 be billing 300, 400, 500 grand. So, and the other thing you have to be, if you just step back and look at a typical rookie, there's 12 months in that rookie year. Well, the first 3, 4 months is really a lot of training, getting things going. Yeah, they're touching interviews, but they're probably not making placements. Every once in a while they do, but I really hope they don't, because then you got other issues, because then they think it's easy. But they really start kicking into gear. Most of their billings, 2/3 of their billings in the first year will probably come in months 9, 10, and 11. So, and so that really, you have to know that that's a possibility. But as long as they're doing everything right, are they getting their connects? That's number one. You got to get the connects. Number 2, are they creating inventory? And then number 3, are they creating interviews? As long as they're creating interviews, man, I'm golden. I don't care if a deal closes. I'd actually prefer that they have to struggle a little bit on the front end to make a deal close, because it's just such a better learning experience. And it seems like all my big billers are hard in those first 4 or 5 months because of a struggle. And anyway, so I'm a little bit weird that way. I just assume.
No, I agree with it. Because let's say you have an interview, first time interview to placement ratio of 8 to 1. 1 in 8 times, the first one statistically is going to become a placement. And then they walk in and they're a god or goddess, right? And it's like, this is Bill, this is so much easier than you said it was in the interview process. And I'm like, oh God, it's one of their first interviews. Now it might be 16 more interviews, 17 more interviews till their next placement, and think a couple things blow up. And it actually, I think it's better to be scarred, to your point, early on, and for you to just say, no, look, business is a function of interviews. You've arranged 15 interviews. You're due for 2 deals, my friend. And then they happen and you look like a magician.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Dion, any questions come up for you that you want Bill to go deeper on?
Yeah, Bill. So, I mean, you and I think you were patient 2 and I was patient 1 with Mike. How patient? Talk about your growth from that point onwards. Was me coming back from once I started working with Mike, I got into this mindset that I just needed to start hiring, much like yourself, and always got a positive return from people that are hired. I got up to a pace of wanting to bring in 1 person a month. How were you scaling in those early years? What was your hiring plan?
So we hired in groups of 3, and now I partnered. When we opened the firm, I partnered with my wife, and so she and I both worked a desk, and then we were hiring and just gravitated. She was better on the phones than I was, and I was more passionate about hiring people. So we would hire in groups of 3. In our very first group, we hit a person that ended up staying with us 15 years, had $6.5 million lifetime. So, we were able to generate or locate what I would consider a big biller. She did upwards up. Her best year was 600, but her average was probably 400. And so she was in the first group of 3. The next group of 3 didn't work. The next group of 3 didn't work. I got pissed off, said, I'm not doing this anymore. And then Angela walks in one day, just was in the office building, and I hired her, and we were off to the races again. She did 220 her first 10 months with us. And okay, now I'm back to hiring 3 again. And so that's why I say emotionally, it's such a roller coaster ride that you have to be, you just have to know that's part of the gig, is that if you're going to get in the hiring game, it is a roller coaster. And so, but it's worth it. It's worth it. And the way I look at it, it's kind of like it's kind of like an annuity. You know, you're spending money in these salaries, putting this money into this annuity, that all of a sudden you walk in one day and you went from 1 or 2 producers to now you got 8, to now I got 12, and now this thing's like a cash machine, you know. And it's just kind of, at this point, it's now like it's self-fulfilling, self-processing. It's a living organism that's not totally dependent upon me or our production. It's really dependent upon their production now, and it just changes over time. But I think, you know, one thing that's important is just being consistent with the hiring and not quitting. And you know, I just admitted that I quit once. I probably did that a few times the first 3 years, but you know, as you continue doing it, you know, you hire 3, they don't work out. You hire 2, 1 sticks. Hey, this was good. Hired 2, no, they didn't work out. Hired 2, both stuck. I was like, hey, this worked, you know, and it's just how it goes. So the first 3 years I was in business, we averaged 13 hires a year. Now I'm probably averaging about 5 or 6, but I need to be doing 10. You know, I want to rebound this thing and grow it to another level. And so to do that, I have to hire more.
Yeah, look, running a recruiting firm, I always say it's like riding a bicycle. If you go too slowly, you fall over. You need to be hiring at a set volume to keep growing. I think another example I've had from one of our mastermind sessions, we had a firm owner who was reluctant to hire, Mike. I don't know if you remember this. And one of the other owners said, I will personally pay for people to come work for you as long as I get a cut of what they bill, because he knew the return of investment of what comes from hiring. He was willing to put, that was Steve, was willing to put the money in to pay for Carl's people because he knew that he would get the return of investment. No risk to Carl. He would happily pay the money because he knew that there would be a return from it.
And there's another advantage too when hiring is rookies are good for the office. You know, your tenured will stay away from the rookies for the first couple of months until they prove themselves. But a rookie is good for the office. It's a different energy level. It's a different vibe. You know, it kind of makes you go back, and if you're training or even if somebody else is training, it makes you go back to the basics. You know, what's the sales and marketing call? What's a recruit call? How do you coach? How do you close? How do you pre-close? It's just always super good for an office overall to retouch the basics. And you can do that when you're consistently bringing rookies into the office. Just adds a whole nother element of energy.
You know, Bill, it's funny you say that. I totally forgot that until you said it. But I remember sometimes like on a Thursday or Friday, right, I've got a hiring class starting on Monday. And part of me would be like, oh, I got a lot going on next week. I got 2 guys, or, you know, I got 2 people starting on Monday. But the whole thing when it's systematized was I didn't spend the week preparing. I know exactly what they're going to do day one. They're going to spend a lot of time watching video that doesn't require my time. You know, we kind of covered that yesterday. 45 minutes a day, hour a day to train new people when you do it in a disciplined way. And then based on their questions, right, Bill, that they bring up the first day, you get excited about the business again. Like I would leave Monday and Tuesday like, wow, you know, we're in a great business because there's such a unvarnished, muddied set of eyes and a brain right there that's excited about the business again. And I think it does the same thing because they'll talk to the people in your office and it lifts them up to it. And until you said it, you know, I totally forgot that. It raises the entire energy of the entire office. That's absolutely true. And
you training makes you a better recruiter as well.
Yes.
Because you get better, because you can't leave them with your bad habits. So you get better and better at it.
Absolutely. And your tenured want to sound better on the phone because they know the rookie's listening.
Right.
I mean, there's lots of advantages to having rookies come in the office, but you do have to, you know, you just have to interview a lot of people. You have to hire a lot of people. And truthfully, you got to pull the trigger. As soon as you know it was a mistake, you've got to pull the trigger. And you got to let them go when they're not right for your firm.
Right. So because the other thing is, this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier. I looked, you know, we talked about this in our boardroom meeting in March, right? Hiring on a calendar, not because Bobby, I can use another recruiter now, so I should probably plan that. No, as a business person, I'm going to have 2 people start May 1. I'm going to have 2 people start September 1. I'm going to have 2 people start January like 4th or 5th, like after New Year's. And you just calendar it like that. And then it's not, and then you're not going to have 100% success, which is why you hire in pairs, right? And you just say, this is what other businesses that scale do. They have hiring plans. IBM, Microsoft isn't calling going, hey, do you need another sales guy? They're saying, no, we want to grow 20% next year. And what are the markets we're going to attack? And based on those markets, where are we going to invest our sales dollars, right? That's what truly scaling looks like. And that's what kind of the dialogue we had for 2 days, in March is where do you want your business to be? Plan on some turnover, and then let's set up a hiring calendar for the entire year.
The hiring calendar is critical because otherwise the year will get slipped by you. But you have to have the discipline to make sure that you force yourself to do it. And you'll come up with all sorts of excuses.
We had a fall off. That's not a good reason.
Yeah.
Every business has fall offs.
If you want to grow, you have to do it.
You're buying revenue streams.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Right. So, you're putting in $3,000 a month to get in profit, probably $12,000 a month or $10,000 a month. Well, Bill, thank you so much. I appreciate your insights as always, my friend. I appreciate you're free to hang out with us if you want. Dion, anything else that we missed?
No, I think you covered it. Nice to see you again, Bill.
Nice seeing everybody out there. Y'all take care.
You didn't come this far to only come this far. If you've been in this business 10 or 15 years and you've hit a plateau, we all hit plateaus, but you're ready for something else. My challenge to you is 1, get clear on what the outcomes you want are. Don't get caught up in the how. The how will show up. Number 2 is first time ever, we've been a coaching company and we've had a couple digital products, but we've never put all of our 9 core systems into a training program, digital training program. And some people they're not in a position where they want to get coaching and implementation support. They just want the systems and the structure. And so we capitulated to the marketplace. And this is the official launch of the Recruiter Masterclass. We had it kind of out in a beta for a little bit, and now we've kind of fine-tuned it, and we're continuing to fine-tune it. And in the Recruiter U Masterclass, we're gonna those 3 core foundations. Certain revenue, going from roller coaster revenue to predictable income, becoming a preferred partner, going from annoying vendor to trusted advisor, the second of the 3 core systems, and scalable business, going from founder dependent to team run. So inside of that, there's 9 business systems, and each system has 3 training modules with the templates and the forms that you need. So you don't have to recreate them. And what does that look like? So 1, it's all digital. You'll get instant access to it. Certain revenue, going from roller coaster revenue to certain income. The number 1 reason recruiting firm owners stay stuck and how to avoid it forever, which is creating a vision. There's an entire, I think, 90 minutes and 2 or 3 modules on step-by-step walk you through. We will suck your vision out of you for you to put it on paper. KPIs and GPS, it's not micromanagement. It's actually the key to accurately forecasting your income and your recruiter's revenue. Our big paranoid when we bring on a new client is if they've had tenured recruiters and they're like, well, I haven't tracked their numbers. And I say, well, if you could go up to them and ask them, if I showed you a roadmap to hit your $300,000 goal, if you knew exactly what you had to do every day, would that be micromanaging you, or is that giving you kind of a roadway? And most of the responses we get from our clients that implement metrics with tenured recruiters is, why didn't you do this sooner? And in this module, stop guessing which activities bring you closer to revenues. The focus planning, we've got the templates to do your annual, your quarterly, and your weekly plans. You can take those templates and incorporate them into your firm. And on the website, it's not www, it's https://get.therecruiteru.com/masterclass. The next one is Pursued Partner. Again, we're going to train, there's training in there on new client development, powerful presentation, how to get retainers, how to manage the search process so that you have a full portfolio of candidates at the end, which is an area I know people are really challenged with right now. And a self-driving business, going from founder dependent to team run. 10 tips on what and why to outsource immediately in your recruiting business. The ins and outs of hiring, what the new roles of recruiters are, how to pay them, how to keep the team engaged, and how to delegate. Those are all training modules, all available 24/7, lifetime access on this site. And for those making a decision quickly, right now we're bonusing in our Mindset Mastery Training Program. One of the big problems this is kind of layered through all the 4 big problems, is the way you think about your business. Oh, no one pays retainers in my niche. Oh, I don't want to double my revenue because I'm going to have to work harder. All those things are limiting beliefs. So we've got a course as it relates to recruiters, and we have our own mindset course coach here actually, who filmed the training, is how to deal with the thought processes that drag you down like an anchor. And there's step-by-step, it'll walk you through again on your own time. Expert interviews with recruiting masters, David Thaler, Greg Dorshing, Jen Lambert, managing the hiring process, how to fire a client the right way. That's in there. Another 7 modules on all different aspects of scaling your business. Those are worth $1,361. Those are free. You can get them all by enrolling today. They'll all be, the way we've set it up to be programmed, they'll all be available as soon as you enroll. And so the Recruiter U Masterclass, it's the 9 business systems, the 3 training modules for each system. So it's a total of 27. There might even be a few more. Mindset Mastery for Recruiters valued at $497. We're also giving away a free ticket to our virtual intensive, very small part of your day. And we limit that to about 50 people. So that's a much smaller group. You can get individually, we do a ton of Q&A in that. We break a lot of these systems down even into greater detail. And it's an opportunity. You'll have had this for a few weeks. You'll actually start to be able to start doing some of the work and bring those questions to the event. Again, we limit that event to 50 people. It's not done on a webinar like this. That is done in a Zoom room. We do Zoom breakouts, and we treat it like we've done as much as we can to recreate the look and feel as if we were in person with you. And you get that ticket worth about $500. You get that as a free bonus for attending. So all these extra bonuses valued over $2,000. The price of the course is, when we fully launch it, will be $4,997, almost $5,000. Again, but you get all that stuff. It's right now in its kind of beta plus mode, because we already had beta mode. It's been tested by probably a dozen users so far, and it's working. But to get a few more kind of case studies, is we've lowered the price to $1,997. And for the next few days, I think till Friday, these codes below, you can get $500 off and still get all the free bonuses. So $1,497 one pay. And when you go to the get.therecruiteru.com masterclass, you enter master, the number 500, master 500, and it'll give you $500 off in the coupon code section. Or for those of you who want to spread this out over 2 months, it's $797 to pay. There's a 2-pay option when you go to the page. I think you have to scroll all the way down. You'll see a 2-pay option, and you enter master 2-pay in the 2-pay option to get $250 off each installment. So really, when you look at this, is when you start studying a Recruiter GPS, what you're going to learn is every time you arrange an interview, that's worth about $2,500 to $3,000, depending on your average fee. If your average fee is around $20,000, each interview is probably worth $2,500. So if you invest $1,500 and you can't get at least 2 more interviews from the strategy, systems, and techniques covering all the 9 key aspects of your business, that's a horrible investment on your part. What it truly means is you didn't do any of the work. If you arrange 2 more interviews, just 2 more interviews, you get 100% return on your investment, meaning you got your investment paid back and you made a profit of $1,500. Actually, no. If you arrange 1 more interview, you get almost a 2-to-1 return on your investment. If you arrange 2 more, you get your 400% ROI. So for those of you sitting here thinking this is expensive, you're probably stuck. And if you've got your own way to get out of it, that's fine. But you have to look at this and say, look yourself in a mirror and say, will I do the work, number 1? will I implement some of it? Number two, you don't have to even implement all of it. Can I arrange one more interview in the next 30 days, which will pay for the course and give me a profit of anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500? One more interview.